Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships and a wee cracker of a game in the Oostergotland courtesy of Circling the Lazy Grizzly. This is of course the Tier 9 Swedish/European destroyer, and it's probably among my favourite Tier 9 destroyers. I just like the Swedish destroyers generally, but once you get to Tier 9 and Tier 10 especially, they are very nice little ships. And one of the big reasons is that you get that heal, you get a fast torpedo reload, they are decent gunboats, and of course they have good AA. In fact, they are among the only destroyer line that you can point at that has consistently decent AA for its tier. And of course, once you get to the higher tiers, you have that defensive available as well. Now, Grizzly did a bit of a risky thing, at least on the face of it, to begin with. He went into the B cap knowing that the Petro was there. But crucially, because it's the Petro, it's only got a rather short duration radar. So it was actually a smart move in my book. I mean, it's something I myself have done in the past, is, especially early on, you dip into a cap when you know there's a radar nearby, especially if it's a Russian radar, and you get them to blow a radar. And you do so in a position where you know you can get away again. And because they have blown that radar, and now, you know, he can just sit here and cap. And the only thing that could interrupt him is either the enemy carrier or another destroyer. But it doesn't look like either of those things is going to happen. So more torps out on that Petro, but as fast as these torps are for this game anyway, they're probably going to get back into cover in time, because they still have a reasonable distance to cover. It's still nearly 10 kilometers these torps have to cover. I think you can get them up to something like 90 knots at their fastest. It's pretty fast. You can make them pretty hard to dodge, especially if you are able to close to within, well, not within your concealment range, but, you know, close to your concealment range. But that's definitely harder a thing to do at the higher tiers, just with the radar around. So that's the mid cap flipped. They're busy flipping A, which is good news, and it looks like it's just the C cap which the enemy team is actively contesting right now. That said, there's still a fair few enemy ships around A, so even if they do flip it, it's not like that is something that is, it's not like that area is definitively controlled by this team as of yet. It's just they've managed to get the cap. But sometimes those early caps really can matter in the late game, having built up a head of victory points, if you like, and having that cushion later on can sometimes prove absolutely crucial. It can sometimes mean the difference between winning and losing. So torps out towards that smoke. He's gonna go into this cap himself, it looks like. There is also De Grosse in there, but they are getting thoroughly focused by basically everything that can see them, I think. So they're already down to less than half health, and presumably they've tried to heal as well. And I think honestly them pushing in like that was probably not the smartest move in the world, just because there's not really much to support them. Everybody else is behind the island on the 9 line pretty much, so that De Grosse has managed to effectively isolate themselves. And the Neptune, that Neptune was obviously going to be a bit of a worry, but yeah, they've just taken a big smack from somebody. Not enough to kill them though, and we can be fairly sure, having seen the smoke, that it's a smoke Neptune rather than a radar Neptune. Still, you don't want to be complacent when you bump into a ship like the Neptune in a destroyer, because of course that British 6-inch AP is particularly nasty if they can catch you broadside. However, if you are able to angle against it, because they only have the AP shells, you can at least bounce the shells much more effectively. It's the upside and the downside of that British 6-inch AP is it's only effective if people are giving you the angle at which it will actually, you know, pen. And even in a destroyer, well, it's not a big enough caliber of shell. It doesn't have enough pen to get through, except on the superstructure. Of course, destroyer superstructures are not usually particularly big. So he's now flipping the cap, and it doesn't actually look like the cap was blocked. It seems like the cap was in fact just being continually reset, with the FDG taking such an absolute pounding. And so that's very good news for the team, because they now have all 3 caps. But they are losing some ships, although the enemy team is also losing some ships. If they can keep up this pace though, if they can strip away enemy ships as fast as they're losing their own ships and maintain control of the caps, that bodes very well for the outcome of this match. You'll have noticed there he also landed some more torpedo hits himself. In fact, I think those were his first torpedo hits this game. And even though it was a very solid 6 hits, it wasn't enough to actually kill anything, because these are, of course, not particularly high damage torps. And he's actually then even hit some more torpedoes into something in that smoke, presumably the Neptune, although we don't know for sure. If this had been another destroyer with more powerful torpedoes, if it had been the Neptune, they probably would be dead. But it equally could have been hits into that Massachusetts that's there. We just do not know at the moment until that smoke is cleared. The surviving allies are pushing up around that corner though, and doing nasty things to the Vanguard. And there we go, the Neptune's there, so it must have been the Massachusetts' this torps hit. The only ship that peeled away to go back south was the Aegea, and I don't entirely know why. They're actually now down by the carrier. The A-cap has been kind of rather thoroughly turned around. There's one ship left inside the cap. The Petro is going for the B-cap, and as you can see, there's ships, including the 2 enemy destroyers who are divisioned. They've pushed round the 2 line and are now trying to sweep up, and the ship that's in the cap is a destroyer that doesn't have any smoke, so yeah, they're probably not going to last very long. So that's it for the Massachusetts, and also a cat pushing things off the table in the background. That just leaves the Neptune. And it must be a little tempting to open fire here, and well, that's exactly what Grizzly does. Surprisingly though, the Neptune, they don't try and stick it out, they immediately smoke, and I guess they are now aware, maybe it's not that surprising, they are the last ship, they know that Grizzly has allies about to come around the corner, which is presumably also why he felt like it was worth taking the risk of opening fire. But that then has now put this Neptune in the very unenviable position of, well, they can either stay in the smoke, in which case smoke is a big old torpedo target, you know exactly the area to aim at. Well, not exactly, but you have a much better idea where to aim at. So Grizzly putting his torps out against the smoke, or of course they could pop out of the smoke and get shot by the destroyer and the cruiser, the battleship and the cruiser that's to their north. Although the Cristoforo Colombo and the Mogami, I can't quite see from the mini-map, it's a little too small on the preview, they seem more intent on chasing down the carrier right now, given the way that they're both headed up north. So for the first time in this game, the enemy team is about to take a cap. And in fact, they take 2 caps simultaneously. However, for that Neptune, the game is about to be over. And yeah, they were low enough at health that a single torpedo was in fact enough to get the kill. So that leaves Grizzly entirely free to flip this cap back. The enemy team has, however, been killing enough of this team, and well, you know, vice versa is true as well, but it's not been a landslide either way. They've both been killing each other's ships at an equal rate, so even though they have had all 3 caps for at least a portion of this game, it doesn't really, it hasn't put the enemy team in a position where they are in imminent danger of losing, although certainly the points are still very much against them, and in fact they've just lost another ship. They would have to be pretty lucky and or skillful in order to turn things around at this stage, though. It's really not looking that good. So the Kitakaze is coming in this direction. That's a ferocious little gunboat, especially in close quarters. Doesn't have a heel, though. What might be of more concern is the Smolensk. Again, fast-firing, 6-inch gunned cruiser, but unlike the Neptunes, that actually has HE, which doesn't care if you're angling or not, so is therefore a considerably more dangerous ship. So, torps out, and it doesn't look like they've hit anything. It definitely tells the Kitakaze he's still there and is aware the Kitakaze is on their way, but of course the Kitakaze would have been able to infer that there was a destroyer in here just on the basis of, well, the cap was being flipped, so you don't have to be a genius to figure out that Grizzly's still here. He's also trying to shave off as much health as he can without exposing himself, without losing hit points in return, just for the inevitable close range fight that's going to happen, or that is likely to happen. Because although he does have a heal, you might notice he's only got 3 of them, so clearly Grizzly is running without Superintendent here, and I don't know if that's just doesn't have enough captain points, or if he's made the deliberate decision to put those points elsewhere. But personally, for me, if it's a ship with a heal, I will always take Superintendent for that extra heal if I feasibly can. For the other consumables, it's maybe not so much worth it. The extra speed boost would be nice, the extra defensive may occasionally be nice, but yeah, he's not had to use either. He's not had to use his defensive, but he has had to use his speed boost. So, the Kitakaze comes round the corner, his torps miss, the Kitakaze is going to get their own torps out, and this is a bit dangerous, but if they're putting their torps out, it means they're not using their guns. However, even one of those torps is going to be super, super bad news, and here's where having an extra speed boost might have been useful. But with some very, very well timed throttle control there, he was able to juke both sets of torpedoes. And he's only really effectively lost a bit of health in return. And he did burn a heal there, but with that late in the game, that coming into the last couple of ships with that amount of health remaining, he can afford to be a little more aggressive at this point. So that was probably the absolute hairiest moment of this game, and a really quite skillful display from Lazy Grizzly there. There was every chance, if I'd been in that situation, that I would have derped into one of those torpedoes, but no, he played it just right. He absolutely managed to juke those torpedoes in a more or less perfect way. And now, really, it's just mopping up. I mean, they only have a couple of ships left themselves, and 2 of those ships have been steadily chasing that carrier. But now that the carrier's gone, all that is left is the Izumo. So, torps out, and this is the last chance for a kill. Sadly, there's no chance of Kraken in this one, but if he can get the last kill, that'll be quite nice. He's already at 115k damage, so he's got a chance to get a bit more here as well, especially as, apart from the carrier, his only 2 rivals for getting this last bit of damage are rather to the north. And the Cristoforo Colombo might have shots within the last couple of minutes of this game, but yeah, only if Izumo really pulls into a position that allows them to take shots. So the first lot of torps didn't do much, but the second lot of torps looked good, and once again opening fire and accelerating into cover of an island. But personally, I think he could have probably just stayed in the open and kept firing instead of going behind the island like this. He's got the heals. He has actually burned another heal. He didn't get a lot of health back for it, but yeah, he has done that, and he's using this brief opportunity for stealth to put more torps out, but I think he very rapidly realises that, yeah, no, might as well just finish this off with the guns, especially after the carrier very nearly gets the kill. So he just sneaks in at the end there. He could have like I said, I think he could have stayed in the open, maybe gotten a bit more damage at the end, but still, 140k damage and a real nail-biter of a moment with that Kitakaze. And that's all led to a very, very healthy 2800 base XP. Oh, it was a Yoshino, not a... Okay. I mean, in my defense, there were tier 8 ships in this game. It's not infeasible it could have been a Megami. So only actually 4 ships there on the damage list. He's only done damage to 4 ships in all of that game, but just with the actions he was taking, and especially the capping, yeah, I think he absolutely deserved to be at the top of that team, and he did do a reasonably substantial amount of damage to just those 4 ships. And it probably helps that it was 4 ships that had, well, 3 ships that had a heal, because of course the Neptune did and the Massachusetts did as well, so that would have been, you know, more damage he was able to get off them than ships without a heal. But still, that was a really good performance in the Oostergotland, and I think really shows the strengths of the ship, and it certainly shows why I like it so much. So hopefully you have enjoyed this replay, and if you have, you can do all the usual things down underneath it, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.